that I, Barry Ramey, threatened an FBI agent who was investigating my case. I was given an enhancement for obstruction of justice through threatening a federal agent, and as I've been saying this whole time to the prosecution through my attorney, that was a lie. And on the 11th hour, right before my sentencing, the Department of Justice reached out to my attorney and said that they are dropping the enhancement, but the damage was done. Multiple news articles have been written about me threatening an FBI agent. My judge for over a year now has heard me threatening an FBI agent, and that was a deciding factor in denying my bond, which I was eligible for. So this is what exactly happened. I retained a lawyer a month after January 6th in South Florida. A whole year later, I was working at my job. I'm an aircraft mechanic, and I'm working on an airplane, and my fiance arrives to the hangar that I work in, and she came to me and said, babe, the day that we knew was going to come has came. The FBI came to the door with a picture of you and wanted me to answer some questions, which she refused to do, respectfully. She then went and dropped the business card that the FBI agent left her off with my attorney and came to my job to inform me. The next morning, my attorney reached out to me and said that I have made contact with the special agent. He knows you have representation. Will reach out to me if and when he needs to speak with you, or we need to turn you in. There's nothing else for you to do. He can't reach it. He can't talk to you anymore. Well, he said he's about 30 to 40 days from needing to talk to me as well. So about 1 week later, I'm working on an airplane, and the parts manager of the company I was working for came to me and said, hey, Barry, do you know a Ryan New Garrett? They're on line 1. They say they're a close family friend of yours. Well, I didn't know anybody by that name, so I went to line 1, and nobody was on the phone. They had hung up. I got the number from caller ID and did a reverse lookup, and found that the phone did belong to Ryan New Garrett, pronounced New Garrett. I got an address and a vehicle VIN number that was public information for some reason, and I wrote it down. Now, why I did this is because I've been attending and doing security at multiple different flag-waving events and conservative events that the far progressive left, aka Antifa and friends, are do frequent and attack people. So I do security, and I was under the threat and always constant fear of being doxxed. Well, I called the phone number thinking that I'm being doxxed, and I said, hey, is this your address? Is this your VIN number? Pretty much saying that, hey, I know who you are. You might know who I am, but you better leave me alone because I'll dox you back. Well, it was the FBI agent. The FBI agent that said they were a close family friend of mine. So about 2 days later, I get a phone call from my lawyer to come into the office. I came into his office, and he said, hey, this Ryan New Garrett, pronounced New Garrett, said that you threatened him. I'm like, well, man, holy crap, that's not what I did. I would never do that. So about a couple of days after that, the FBI hit squad came at me, M16 pointed at my chest, and I was arrested and indicted for the events around January 6th with a new allegation of threatening and impeding a federal investigation in an officer. So again, for a whole year, the DOJ and the prosecution sat on evidence that they had the entire time, and that proved that I did not know he was an agent. And the law states they have to declare themselves as the FBI. It also states that after they know you have a lawyer, they need to reach out to the lawyer. This FBI agent lied and said they were a close family friend of mine. Again, I thought I was being doxxed. So on the 11th hour, after preparing for this sentencing, after a year of the public and the media saying that I threatened an FBI agent, the prosecution says that they're dropping the enhancement. But did that stop them from going into the courtroom in my sentencing and saying that they just can't prove that I threatened the agent, but they know I threatened the agent, and having my judge here for a whole year that I had threatened an agent when the DOJ knew that I didn't do that? No, it didn't. They did that, and that, along with some other things that were completely made up and to a point and lied, were aggravating factors for the judge to give me, on average, what we're determining 1.4 years more than somebody else that has the same allegations and charges against them. So it's just one of the many examples of how dirty the FBI will play. And, it is what it is. This is God's plan, and we'll go with that. I'm just looking forward to finally being able to talk to the American people and get the truth out there that I never threatened an FBI agent.
Well, I'm glad that you are being able to finally speak your truth. And would you like to talk a little bit about how the judge admonished the prosecution for not having her shit together?
Yeah, and they did that in my bench trial as well, but the judge did say, make several comments to that effect, that prosecution was alluding and presenting things and aggravating factors in my case that simply just weren't true and really couldn't prove it. And I'm glad that I had Friedrich and not somebody like Judge Kelly who just doesn't care about these things and actually goes along with them. And it's to some extent I can't blame the judge because if she had to hear the lies the prosecution was constantly saying, that's. I'd like to get your opinion about it, Tammy. I heard that you take really good notes. So what were your thoughts about what you witnessed from the backseat?
Oh man, I was really blown away. The thing that blows me away the most is how they can state as a matter of fact things that are not in evidence and things that you are not convicted for. You were not convicted of assaulting 2 officers. You were convicted of assaulting 1 officer. Yet they spoke over and over and over again of the 2 officers that you assaulted. And neither of those officers could find the time to come to the court, so it didn't seem like they were that much of victims. Nor could the FBI agent, who was so terrified by you, couldn't find the time to come to the court. So, the prosecution did not lay out her case. And then when she said to the judge, well, I can get you that information next week, or I can have that paperwork turned into you in a couple of days, the judge said, no, I don't want to hear it in a couple of days. I'm ready to rule now. And I think that's indicative of a lot of these prosecutors. They don't come prepared.
They haven't had to.
Yeah, they don't have to.
Well, in most cases, they don't have to. There's not a judge like Friedrich that will demand that they do. I will say that I was actually convicted of assaulting 2 officers. It's just that one of the assaults, which I'm appealing, I never actually assaulted that officer. That was a completely twisted narrative that they were able to manipulate. But I did beat the 111Bs, dangerous and deadly weapon. That's the 2 that I beat, and I got them down to 111As, which is just simple assault. However, in my bench trial, I beat the false narrative that I assaulted them using a deadly and dangerous weapon. I beat those charges, but the judge still gave me a 4-point enhancement for using a dangerous weapon. So that's something that I just find completely insane, that I beat those charges in court in my trial, but I was still given an enhancement for doing what the judge found me not guilty of. Another thing that they did was they completely blatantly lied. As you heard, they tried to tell the judge that I pulled a gun years ago on my mother's landlord. This could not be anything further from the truth. During hurricanes in South Florida, which we get frequently, I stay with my mother to protect her and be there with her. I was cleaning my legally owned gun one day, a day before a hurricane was going to hit. I had the gun in multiple different pieces. It's legally owned. It's South Florida. I was oiling it and cleaning it on a mat on the kitchen table, and the landlord, who doesn't speak a lick of English, stopped by unannounced, uninvited, and I didn't mind because he was checking on the hurricane shutters. He came into the apartment, he checked on the shutters. That was all that happened. He doesn't speak very good English. The FBI went and investigated previous addresses that were tied to me and my family. That apartment that my mother used to rent years ago was one of them. This translated under oath, this prosecutor said that I pulled a gun on my mother's landlord. Of course, that never happened. There was never a criminal complaint or police report because it never happened. I was cleaning my gun and he came over, and he didn't even call and say he was coming over. But they did that. They lied and told the judge that I pulled a gun on my mother's landlord. If you think that wasn't, even though the judge did demand to see proof and they couldn't prove it, as a human being, she heard that. She took that into consideration when handing down my sentence, as she called me a threat to society, even though I have no criminal history whatsoever. I've never been convicted of any crime.
She did bring, this is Mickey. I was there too, and I was
it just appalls me that she could continue to talk about things that you had been acquitted of and actually been through the process and still hold that against you in a court of law when you've been, found innocent. So that's kind of mind-boggling.
Sure.
Yeah.
In both of those situations that she was talking about, it was grown men that alleged that I threatened them or assaulted them. And in both situations, I was defending a female from them. And we did get a little heated. I did want to fight them for the way they treated a woman at that time, but nothing happened. And again, they were litigated in front of a judge. They were dismissed. I was found not guilty, and they were thrown out. And yeah, they held that against me here in D.C. 7 or 8 years later, and that was an aggravating factor for her to give me more time than she would have. And this is, that's where I'm at. But again, I guess it's not the 9 years they were gunning for.
And unfortunately, the prosecution was able to say he's been charged with this and he's been charged with that. But your attorney did a really good job of countering that. I think your attorney was really good. But it is absolute bullshit that they can say, oh, well, he was charged with this or charged with that, but they don't say what the resolution to those charges were, because that would break their narrative.
Right. And my attorney made a good point. The only thing that proved is that I respect the system and I dealt with it the way the law says, and I was found not guilty in accordance with the law, but yet they still use it against me as somehow that was, aggravating factors. And yes, my attorney did do a good job. I have a lot of respect and admiration for her. Had it not been for her, I would have been in a world of hurt with this prosecution, the way they elicited all these lies during my case. And again, I was ready to take responsibility from day one. I was ready to take a plea for assault on one officer. They wanted me to, my last and final plea, the best plea they offered me was 9 to 11 years in prison. That's what they offered me. And so I had to take it to bench trial, and I'm glad that I did, because the judge found me not guilty of exactly what I was saying I wasn't guilty of, but yet somehow still held it against me because I went to trial.
Right. Well, you can go to trial in this nation, but it will cost you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping, you're absolutely right, and I'm just hoping that my trial and the outcome will help other J6ers, and if I have to do an extra year and a half in jail for that, then it's worth it for me, because now they can't say that what other people did that I was accused of is deadly and dangerous weapon causing serious bodily injury and harm, because I never did that. And I hope that this case law can now help others, so if I have to do another year in jail for that, it's worth it.
Well, you're a true patriot, Barry, and we love you.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I appreciate that. Well, listen, thanks for letting me have this voice to get this off my chest. I just want the American people to know, or at least the patriots that are listening, I didn't threaten an FBI agent. That was a lie by the DOJ, and the proof is in the pudding. They dropped the charge 1 day before my sentencing, but, the damage is done. The judge listened to for a whole year that I obstructed justice. There's many news articles out there that say I threatened an FBI agent, but, they dropped the charge because they sat on evidence for a whole year that I never did that, and it never happened. But welcome to the FBI under the Biden administration.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, good luck, Barry. Hopefully you can get some of that libel money.
Libel.
Yeah, well, I just hope I can help others first, and we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna be peeling one of my charges, and hopefully it'll help a lot of people. But thanks a lot, guys. God bless you all. Thank you, Mama Mickey. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Stormtrooper, and all you good people out there. God bless the USA.
God bless you, Barry. We love you.
Love you, brother. Amen.
Haha. It was so